I want to share a little bit more about myself today. I am a huge Vikings fan. I absolutely love watching my Minnesota Vikings play. I know it's heartbreaking as well. We've come so close a few times in the last 20 or so years that I've been a fan. And still, I have faith in my boys that one of these years, it's going to be our year. I just know it. My dad's a huge Vikings fan too, and I got him a Vikings shirt that says, just one before I die. And hopefully that comes true. I'd absolutely love to see that. He's been a fan since the beginning. So one of these years, one of these years. My favorite player on the team is Adam Thielen. I love that he's a Minnesota boy. I love that he went to Mankato State. Both of my sisters attended that college, and that he went undrafted, which basically means he just worked his tail off to make the team, and he's still working his tail off to become one of the best receivers in the NFL. So absolutely love watching him play as well. And hopefully we can apply some of that working really hard to do well in our lives to maybe some of this distance learning. I'm hoping that you've been able to pick up something. I understand that this is not an ideal way to learn, but as we continue to move forward together, I hope that we can also continue to grow a little bit as math students as well. So what I would like you to do now is in this question and puzzle is let me know what activity that you enjoy, whether it be sports or music or video games, whatever it is that you'd like to do in your free time, just let me know. All right, yesterday we saw how to solve a system of equations by multiplying one of the equations so we could get those coefficients to match and then cancel when we added them together. Taking a look at our first system, I'm looking at my x coefficients. I see that 2 does not go into 3, so I'm going to look at my y coefficients. 3 does not go into 5 either, so this is a case where I will have to multiply both equations in order to get the coefficient to match. I'm going to go ahead and choose to cancel my x because 2 and 3 are smaller than 3 and 5. So now I need to think about what number do 2 and 3 both go into, and the answer is 6. So I need to turn both of my x coefficients into a 6. They're already opposites, which is nice. I'm going to multiply my first equation by 2 because 2 times 3 will give me that 6. And I'm going to multiply my second equation by 3. Again, that 2 times 3 will give me 6. Using distributive property for that first equation, I've got 6x minus 10y equals 8. Using distributive property for that second equation, I have negative 6x plus 9y equals 6. Now my x coefficients are positive and negative 6. They are the same number but opposite signs. So when I add these two equations together, my x's will cancel. Negative 10y plus 9y leaves me with a negative 1y. And 8 plus 6 gives me 14. Solving for y, I need to cancel that multiplying by negative 1. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1, and I'll get y equals negative 14. Now I need to go back and solve for x. I can choose either of my original equations. I'm going to use the second one. The numbers are a little bit smaller, so I'm going to replace y with negative 14 and solve for x. First step in solving this one, I need to multiply the 3 and the negative 14, which gives me a negative 42. And then I can cancel that negative 42 with addition. Leaving me with negative 2x equals 44. And dividing both sides by negative 2, I get x equals negative 22. Finally, writing my solution as an ordered pair, negative 22 was my x value, and negative 14 was my y value. All right, second practice problem. Again, looking at my x coefficients, 2 does not go into 3. Looking at my y coefficients, 6 does not go into 11. I'm going to choose to eliminate my x again because 2 and 3 are smaller than 6 and 11, and it's nice to work with smaller numbers. Again, 2 and 3 both go into 6, and they're already opposites. One of my coefficients is negative, and the other coefficient is positive. So I don't have to worry about getting those signs to be opposites because they already are. All right, to get 2 to multiply to 6, I'll multiply by 3. And to get 3 to equal 6, I will multiply by 2. Distributing in my first equation, I get negative 6x. 3 times that negative 6 gives me a negative 18y. And multiplying by 0 still gives me a 0. In that second equation, 2 times 3x gives me a positive 6x. 2 times 11 gives me a positive 22y. And 2 times 4 gives me 8. Adding my equations together, again, that negative 6x and positive 6x cancel. Negative 18y plus 22y gives me 4y, and 0 plus 8 gives me 8. Dividing both sides by 4, I get y equals 2. Now I need to go back to one of my original equations to solve for x. I'm going to use the second equation. Even though the first equation has smaller numbers, they're negatives, and negative signs are just harder to keep track of. So if I replace y with 2 in my second equation, I have all positive numbers to work with. To solve for x, I will multiply my 11 by 2, canceling the 22 with subtraction. 4 minus 22 gives me a negative 18, and dividing by 3, I get x equals negative 6. And of course, writing my answer as an ordered pair, x value comes first, negative 6, y value comes second, positive 2. All right, last one. Notice that the coefficients for x are 4 and 14, and the coefficients for y are 4 and 14. So there isn't one that's easier than the other. The other thing I notice is that the x coefficients are both positive, and my y coefficients are both negative. So I will have to multiply one of these through by a negative to get the signs to be opposite. Because I've eliminated x the last 2 times, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate y this time. Now, what do 4 and 14 both go into? They both go into 28. So to get my 14 to equal 28, I will multiply by 2. To get my 4 to equal 28, I will multiply by 7. But we also talked about one of these needs to be a negative in order to get those signs to be opposite as well. You could choose either one. You could have chosen to make your 2 negative if you wanted to. Distributing my 2 times 14 gives me 28x. 2 times negative 14 gives me negative 28y. And 2 times negative 28 gives me a negative 56. Second equation, negative 7 times 4 gives me a negative 28x. Negative 7 times negative 4 gives me a positive 28y. And negative 7 times negative 8 gives me a positive 56. So when I add my 2 equations together, 28 minus 28, my x's cancel. Negative 28 plus 28, my y's cancel. They add to 0. And negative 56 plus 56 adds to 0 as well. So this is a special solution. When both of the variables cancel, you ask yourself if the equation is true. Does 0 equal 0? Of course, that is true. So what that means is that this system has many or infinite solutions? All right, I hope you have a great day. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.